Hello students, welcome to Meso Study. In the today's session, we will be talking about some CBSE pattern question exercise for the chapter Evolution. We have studied in detail regarding the chapter Evolution. We have talked about the different adaptive radiation, how the life evolved on Earth, different experiments, different evidence we have already completed. Hope everything is clear to you. Now, in the today's session, we will be talking about around 10 questions. The 10 questions, they are from different category, some from 1 marks, 2 marks, 3 marks and the 5 marks. I will tell you how to attempt such type of question. In the today's session, I will not provide you notes in written. I will not be able to give you each and every part because we have already studied in the sessions that what about the different things which happened, different evidences, etc. But I will tell you what are the evidences that you have to write in this. Now, let us move on to the first question. First question is of a 1 mark. Similarly, the first, second and the third question, they are of 1 marks. But you do not have to stop here, you don't only rely on these questions, rather than practice more and more questions. Now, let us move on to the first question. What is the fitness of individual according to Darwin? Now, when we talk about a fitness of individual, an individual is considered as a fit. When we normally see, when we normally talk in a day-to-day language, a person is fit. That means we can see that the person is healthy. But Darwinian fitness is different from a normal fitness. Here, Darwinian fitness, such type of fitness is called as a Darwinian fitness. So, Darwinian fitness is that fitness when an individual is able to reproduce a large number of individuals, that is called as a Darwinian fitness. So, means organism can produce large number of individual or offspring under ideal condition is called Darwinian fitness. Now, if I relate Darwinian fitness to another topic, another word, that is abiotic potential, that is almost same. Every organism that comes on Earth's surface, they always want to reproduce at a very fast rate. So, the reproduction is a prime motive of any individual. To talk about a Darwinian fitness, if an organism during the whole lifetime can produce in ideal condition large number of offspring, that is called as a Darwinian fitness. But what are the negative points that act on it? Environmental resistance is a basic thing that act on it, that negatively affect that organism cannot produce up to their maximum limit. Sometimes resources are not enough. Sometimes the parasites are present, sometimes the predators are present, sometimes the food is not present in enormous amount, the shelter is not there, the water is not there, the external temperature is not favorable. In that condition, organism is unable to produce to attain a Darwinian fitness. So, the Darwinian fitness is a sort of a hypothetical term, right? And normally when we talk about in a practical way, one cannot attain this Darwinian fitness. Let us move on to the next question, that is a question number 2. Just read this question. By the time, let me prepare this board for you. State the significance of study of fossils in evolution. Students, tell me one thing, what do you mean by study of fossils? Study of fossils is called as a paleontology. Paleontology is called as a study of fossils. That means we are talking about those fossils, those dead remains which is present under the earth crust. Just imagine a situation, you are geologist and you want to study about the fossils, you are a paleontologist and you want to study the fossils. And if you want to study fossils, you will make a vertical layer of the earth crust and you have to find out the different fossils which is present. On the basis of their position in the earth crust layer, you will be able to determine that it was present in that particular era, and those organisms we have today, that technique present with which we can determine the exact age of any fossils. So, fossils gives us an idea that during the previous age, what kind of organisms they were present. Those modern organism, if we find any fossils of modern organism, that means they were evolved, or they were converted into fossils because of one process which is called as a extinction, right? To talk about a study of fossils in evolution, evolution is that study where a single cell has converted into a today multicellular organism, single cell which was arrived a millions of years back, thousands of years back, and now we have as a multicellular organism present. With the due time, what has happened in between, with the study of paleontology, with the study of fossils, it become possible to compare one fossil with another. With one fossil study to another, or we can compare the fossils to the today living organism, with which we can get to know about the ancestor of ours, we can get to know how the evolution, how the modification has happened during the course of time. So, this is the significance of evolution and we have studied in session in detail. Hope you can answer that question. Now, let us move on to the next question. So, write the probable difference in the eating habitat of Homo habilis and Homo erectus. We have studied about the Homo habilis and Homo erectus when I was talking about the evolution of man. Similarly, there is one difference in the feeding habitat of Homo habilis and Homo erectus. Homo habilis, they do not eat meat, whereas a Homo erectus, they eat meat. This is just a probable that they used to eat meat. We do not have any evidence for that. On the basis of their canines, on the basis of the structure of their canine, the modification in their canine, we can derive that they used to eat meat. Now, let us move on to the next category of question, that is of a 2 marks question. So, identify the following pairs as a homologous and analogous organ. Now students, we have studied in detail regarding the homologous and analogous organ and I have given you a list of that. Homologous, these are the homologous organs, these are the analogous organs. Let us talk about some of the difference between them. Homologous organs, they are those organs which first of all they are structurally they are same, but functionally they are different. Analogous are those in which the structure is different but function is same. Now, to talk about these two organs, homologous, structural same, but function is different. Right? And we know that homologous organs, they always lead to which type of evolution? Divergent evolution. Now, let us discuss about analogous organ. Analogous organs, they are those organs in which the structure is not same, but the function is same. Structure different, but function same. Structure different, but function same. Now, Such type of evolution that happens between them, this is a convergent evolution. That means two different ancestors are there, they are forming a same type of structure. This is called as a convergent evolution. Right? Now, sweet potato and potato. Sweet potato and potato, when we say, in this case the structure is different but function is same, that is for the storage. So, these are the type of analogous organ. Right, or analogous structures. Eyes of octopus and eyes of mammals, structurally they are different but function is same, that is to see objects. So, they are also analogous structure. Right. Let us move on to the next, thorns of bougainvillea and tendrils of cucurbita. In this case, the structure is same but function is different, and we have studied in detail. So, they are a type of another, that is a homologous organ. Right. Forelimbs of bat and whale, they are also homologous structure, because when we see the structure in between them, that is radius is present, the ulna is present, the phalanges are present, the humerus is also present. In this case you can see the structure is same but the function is different. In this case they help in flying, whereas in case of the whale they help in the swimming process. So, this is also a homologous organ. Right. Now, let us look at the last part, state the kind of evolution they represent. I have already told you that analogous structures are those structures which show the convergent evolution. So, they show convergent evolution, this also show convergent, they show divergent evolution, they also show divergent evolution. Right? First two are analogous structure, rest two are a homologous structure. First two are they show convergent evolution, rest two they show the divergent evolution. Right? This was the question number 4. Let us move on to next question, question number 5. Explain how the natural selection operates in nature by taking an example of a white-winged and dark-winged moth of in England. We have already studied about industrial melanism. This is just an example of industrial melanism. Before industrialization, the two type of moth were there. Before industrialization, we know the two type of moths they were present. One was a white color moth and second was a dark colored moth. Dark colored moth. Now, listen to the things very carefully. White color moth was there and also the dark color moth was there. Now, these moths normally they used to sit where? They used to sit on the tree trunk. So, before industrialization, the tree trunk was covered with lichen. Right? Lichens, they were of white color. They were of white color. Now, just imagine a situation. Two moths which were present the white color moth, they can easily blend with the surrounding white color lichens. So they will be able to survive. Whereas the dark color moth, they will not be able to survive. The reason is that they will be clearly visible to the predators. In this case, the white color moth, they were more present and they were less present. Right? Another example is after industrialization. In this case also, the dark color and the white color, both moths are present. As you can see, both the moths, they were present. But industrialization has already taken place. Because of these, the tree trunk, they were not covered by lichen. Tree trunks, they were not covered by lichen, right? Instead, soot was present. Now, just imagine a situation when the outermost, or you can say the blending structure, they were dark in color. That means those which are of a dark colored, they will be able to survive, whereas they will not be able to survive. But still, I am not saying they will be completely vanished. They will be still present, they will be present in a more number. So, they were present in more number, they were present in less number. This is called as a industrialization, this is called as a industrial melanism, which is in the England before industrialization and after industrialization, right. So, this was a very good example of the natural selection, that during the before industrialization, natural selection was there, which selected only a white colored moth. That does not mean the dark colored moth were not present, they were present, but they were in less number. Whereas in this case, they were present in more number, whereas they were present in the less number. Let us move on to the next question. Hope this question is clear to you. Now, this is also very good question. How is Darwin concept of evolution differ from that of our Hugo de Vries? Now, Darwin concept, now listen to things, Darwin concept. We have already studied about Darwin concept in detail. Darwin concept was based upon one factor which we call it as a variation. Variation. Whereas the Hugo de Vries concept was based upon mutation. And both of the concept is related to speciation. That means formation of species. I am just writing like this so that things should be clear to you, but you cannot write like this in your paper. You have to write as if you are explaining for a long answer type question. This is a short answer type question, that is enough. Now, variation is there and the mutation is there. Now, Darwin concept was based upon the variation, and variation is considered as a slow and continuous change. Whereas the Hugo de Vries concept was based upon the mutation, and he was working on primrose. He was working on primrose, and he said that the mutation are large and discontinuous change. large and discontinuous change. And he said that this type of sudden change which happens in a population that leads to the speciation. So can I say these are a sudden change? That basically the difference is that is considered as a fast change. Sorry, this is considered as a slow change. This is considered as a slow change. This is a fast change and a sudden change, and this is a slow change. This was a difference between a two concept, one which was given by the Darwin and second which was given by Hugo de Vries. The Hugo de Vries, he gave the concept of a sudden change. This sudden change, which is because of the mutation, is also called as a saltation. Also called as a saltation, right? So hope this question is clear to you. Now let's move forward. So the next question is from a different category. This is of a 3 marks. Very good question, very direct question. What is adaptive radiation? When can adaptive radiation can be referred as a convergent evolution? Give an example of this. We have already studied about the adaptive radiation. Now, let's understand. Adaptive radiation, that means evolution of species or evolution of different species from parent species by migrating to different habitat in geographical area. Right? Because they are exposed to different kind of environmental condition. As they are exposed to different environmental condition, the different species they are formed. That leads to the speciation, which is ultimate motive that we want a different species has to form. Now this is our adaptive radiation. In this we have a very good example of a marsupials, that is evolution of Australian marsupials. Right. And we have already studied in session regarding the evolution of the different marsupials. So hope you can draw the diagram when I have drawn that evolution, how evolution happened in this case. Right. Now let's move forward towards the next question. Very good question. P square plus 2pq plus q square is equal to 1. Explain this algebraic equation on the basis of the Hardy-Weinberg principle. So first of all, let's understand about this Hardy-Weinberg principle. What is a Hardy-Weinberg principle? That means a gene frequency of randomly mating panmictic population randomly mating panmictic population tend to remain constant, that is equal to 1. This is called as a Hardy-Weinberg principle. Now in this Hardy-Weinberg principle, the different algebraic forms are p square, q square, equal to 1. question arises, what is a P? P is allele frequency of A. A. Q is allele frequency or frequency of allele small a, right? Whereas 2pq, let's first talk about the p square. P square is frequency of homozygous capital A, homozygous capital A. Whereas a q square is equal to frequency of homozygous small a, right? Whereas this 2pq means frequency of heterozygous, that is a capital A, small a, right? This is called as a Hardy-Weinberg principle. This is a overall equation and this is the meaning of this equation, right? Now, let's move on to the next question, question number 9. This question is of 5 marks. How does the study of fossils they help in understanding the evolution? Now, we have already studied regarding the paleontology, but paleontology they help in deriving a situation where we can compare one organism which was present in earlier time, because we have a fossils of that which is present in a different earth crust layer. Whereas today we have a multicellular organism, we can easily compare the morphological evidences, and basically with the help of fossils, morphology is studied and compared with existing species, right? In different layers of earth crust by looking at the vertical stratification of earth crust, we can get to know that this was a species which was present in this particular area, and we can easily determine the age of the fossils. So, this is a study of fossils which help in understanding the evolution. Next is, how did S.L. Miller provide an experimental evidence in favor of Oparin and Haldane hypothesis? Now, just look at this. I will be just revising. I will tell you about the Oparin and Haldane experiment. So, Oparin and Haldane experiment was based upon the evolution of a cell. How cell is evolved, this was focused on that. Right. This is considered as a spark chamber. Where different gases they were placed. Here water was present, but that water was in a boiling condition. So, right. This is called as a vacuum pump. Vacuum pump. Spark chamber was there. The different gases, this was a coolant, this was the inlet, this was the outlet. Right. In the spark chamber, these were the electrode present. The different gases were placed. Gases which were placed, they were CH4, they were ammonia, they were hydrogen and water. Right? These were the gases which was present. And later on it was seen that from the outlet, the different organic substances that forms. These organic substances, they were, first of all, the simpler inorganic substances, they were formed. These simpler inorganic substances were amino acids, they were nucleotide, fatty acids, monosaccharides, they were formed. Right? Now, this was the experiment which was done by the Oparin and Haldane hypothesis. S.L. Miller provided experimental evidence that, this was a Miller and Urey experiment which was in favor of the Oparin and Haldane. This was an experiment, and Oparin and Haldane they said that life evolved from inorganic substances, and these inorganic substances, they further combine together and they leads to the formation of organic substances. Right? And they said that the earlier atmosphere was reducing in atmosphere, due to which the inorganic substances, they combine and they form the organic substances. One more thing, they first tell that first of all the organic evolution take place, later on which is preceded by the chemical evolution. So, organic evolution and chemical evolution. This also you have to explain in detail. Right? This was a Miller and Urey experiment which was supported by Oparin and Haldane. Right? So, this was another 5-mark question. First part you can attempt because we have already studied about it, and second part hope you can remember because in the sessions we have discussed about the same model in detail, and I have discussed about the Oparin and Haldane hypothesis as well. Now, let us move on to the next question. Explain the observation and the conclusion drawn by the Darwin during the visit of a Galapagos Island. When the Darwin visited to Galapagos Island, he saw the different warblers, and these different warblers, which he call it as a Darwin finches, they were having a changes within the beak structure. Each organism, they were different and they were adapted for the feeding habitat of that organism. So, he was working on warblers. which he called it as a Darwin finches. And later on he saw the different warblers are there depending upon food habitat. Upon food habits, their beak was modified. Right. And he gave a clear concept of a adaptive radiation. Clear concept of adaptive radiation, because they were exposed to different environmental conditions where the food preferences of organism they become different. With the course of time, those which evolved, which can easily adapt to the food habitat which they are exposed to. So that leads to adaptive radiation, because they were started with a single species and later on the different type of the Darwin finches or the warblers they arise, because they were exposed to different island. They were exposed to the different geographical area, and each of these they were different from one another on the basis of their beak structure. This is well explained with the help of our adaptive radiation, right? Now, let's move on to the second part. In this you have to explain about the Darwin finches, the Galapagos Island, why he went there, and also you have to explain about the adaptive radiation in detail. What is adaptive radiation? We have already discussed in the session. Write the two key important concepts of the Darwin's theory of natural selection. Darwin theory of natural selection, the two important terms that he used, first was a variation and second is a natural selection. These are the two important words which he used. Every organism they show a variation, and this variation is normally present in the environment. Let's talk about a human being. In case of the human being, let's talk about the height of human being. Today we have as a very short height organisms, also a very long height organism as well. This is called as a variation. Suppose something happened, some environmental resistance come, due to which only those organisms which are having a height more than 6 feet, if they are able to survive, rest all are diminished. That means those organisms which is of a good height, they survived, that is called as their natural selection. Because variation is there, variation is a very important source for evolution. This was explained with in the theory which was given by Darwin, that is the Darwin theory of natural selection. So you have to explain about the variation, you have to explain about the natural selection in detail, which we have studied in the sessions, right? So hope students, so today's session is clear to you. We have discussed on an average the 10 questions, how to attempt 10 questions, direct and easy questions they were, and similar type of questions they will be asked in your CBSE exam as well. So you have to be very careful, read the question carefully, then attempt to use a neat and clean handwriting. Do only with the help of a neat and clear handwriting, and also you can use a pencil also while making the diagram. Do not make diagram with pen, right? So today we have completed the chapter, that is evolution. We will meet in the next class when we will discuss a new chapter. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you so much students for watching this.